So we're beginning again in chapter, or rather text 5, Nectar of Instruction. So we talked about the 3 different levels of devotees. What are they?
The Kanishta Adhikari.
Okay. What are they?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Just know them by classes, like first class, third class.
Okay. So you should know the Sanskrit. So Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama, right? So take notes. Devin, you'll want to write that down. Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama. Okay, so what is a Kanishta Adhikari?
It's like the one who's barely beginning, neophyte.
Okay, very good. Yeah, he's the beginner. And what is the Madhyama? It's in the middle. What are some of the characteristics of the Madhyama that we've discussed already?
They practice devotional service all the time, not just at the temple.
Okay, very good. Yeah, they're really fixed up, you know. Prabhupada mentioned second initiation. So you could see a devotee we've seen. You know, if you look around the temple, you'll see devotees that are absorbed in serving the deities. They're absorbed in doing service. You know, they have some responsibility, right? Like Krishna consciousness is really at the center of their life. And they're really working hard to make spiritual advancement. And more or less, you know, they're constantly absorbed in their devotional responsibilities, even if that means taking care of your family and working a job or whatever. But your motivation is to serve Krishna, right? Whereas the Kanishta Adhikari, Prabhupada mentions here, someone who's received first initiation only, is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. So, you know, you have the devotee who's just sort of becoming fixed up, you know, just sort of moving into that stage. And also these 3 different levels, Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama, they are also connected to the chanting of the holy name. Like Prabhupada mentions here, the Kanishta, he's trying to chant the holy name, right? So Kanishta Adhikaris generally chant on the stage of what's called Nam Aparad, right? It means like you're making offenses while chanting. The Madhyama chants on the stage of Nam Abhas, which means, you know, Abhas means kind of like the light of the holy name is beginning to rise in the sky. Just like at nighttime or early in the morning, the sky is dark. It's like Nam Aparad. Nam Abhas means like when the sun hasn't yet risen, but it's still starting to become daytime just because the sun is approaching the horizon, right? So that Abhas, that light of the holy name, is sort of there within the life of the Madhyama Adhikari, because the Madhyama Adhikari, Haribol, is chanting attentively, or trying to, yeah? The more you put your mind on the holy name and focus, the more you make spiritual advancement. This is a big secret. Not secret, it's open secret. But this is the key to spiritual advancement, is to actually try to focus on the holy name. Try to hear the holy name. If you want to become a Madhyama Adhikari and push through Kanishta, that's what you got to do. You know, no matter what, you try to hear the holy name and chant the holy name. Like life is kind of crazy, right? It's like a whirlpool of all sorts of craziness. But if somehow or other every day you can try to focus and hear the holy name, then you will make advancement in the midst of all that chaos. Does that make sense? And that's what life is like. You know, it's very chaotic, especially when you're a Kanishta, because you're not in the mode of goodness. You're in the modes of passion and ignorance. And so your life is kind of like a, you know, mi vida loca, right? And so your life is crazy. But if somehow or other, for those 2 hours or whatever, hour and a half, takes you to chant japa, if you could somehow hear the holy name and focus on the holy name, you'll be moving upward, okay? And so then you have finally, when you have moved upward through Madhyama and achieved the position of Uttama Adhikari, what is the symptom that Rupa Goswami gives of an Uttama Adhikari?
Clean-hearted.
Okay. Anyone else? That's true, but there's something more specific that you even mentioned last time.
They don't blaspheme the
Yes, yes. They're free. Their heart is free of the propensity to criticize others. Not just devotees, but anybody, right? So Uttamadhikaris don't like to find fault, you know. They're not interested in the ugliness that's in other people. There's no envy in their heart. And that's the result of having a pure heart, yeah? That's how you see how clean someone's heart is, right? If someone really likes to look at the faults of others and attack them and find fault, that's actually dirt. You know, that's dirt in someone's heart. So somebody who's pure, who's actually cleansed the mind through the holy name, they don't have that desire to put anyone down or to feel superior to anyone. That's really what criticism is. It's just the desire to feel that you're above others. But the Uttamadhikari just sees himself as a servant of Krishna, and all living entities are also servants of Krishna, right? So it's actually a very humble position. Okay, so let's take a look here at the top of page 49. It says here, one should not remain a Kanishta Adhikari, one who is situated in the lowest platform of devotional service and is interested only in worshipping the deity in the temple. So also the Kanishta Adhikari really sees Krishna as just in the temple, right? Krishna is just on the altar, right? And the whole world is kind of Maya's abode for me to enjoy. But, God is at the temple, or God is at the church, right? And that's kind of what the Kanishta does. So now here we get into as we mentioned in the end of the last class, Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita both define the Kanishta Uttama Madhyama. So now Prabhupada is going to talk about that. So such a devotee is described in the 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.47. Archayam eva haraye pujam ya shraddhaye hate natad bhakteshu chanyeshu dha bhakta prakrita smritaha. A person who is faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave towards devotees or people in general, is called a prakrita bhakta or kanishta adhikari. Okay? So sa bhakta prakrita smritaha. So he's known as a prakrita bhakta, a materialistic devotee, a material devotee. That's really what it means. You're a devotee absorbed in prakriti. Yeah? We're all souls here. Take a look around the room. Just look around at your fellow souls. Do you see any souls here? No, we see bodies, right? This particular body looks like this, wearing this clothing. You make all sorts of judgments, right? Like if we look at the Hari Bhakta here, what do you see? Well, he's quite dashing with his handsome haircut and buttoned shirt and slacks and everything, and his watch, and he's clean shaven and everything like that. So this is, you see that that's not him though. You see, that's just his body. The Madhyamadhikari looks past the prakriti. Prakriti just means material energy. So you look past that and you see actually he's a soul, and you see the soul by how he's trying to serve Krishna. Yeah, you see the soul by he's looking at the Nectar of Instruction right now, or he showed up for class. That's actually the soul. The soul desires Krishna, and therefore, when you look at the individual's relationship with Krishna, that's how you see the soul. Otherwise, you just see the gross physical body, and you're past making material judgments based on the body. Now, what if we wanted to find fault with him? Where do the faults exist in Hari Bhakta? There are no faults, but if he had faults, where do they exist? Just in the material platform, right? So when you're looking at faults of a devotee, you're just looking at the material platform. Even when they do stupid stuff, right? Like sometimes I with myself, managing in the deity department, it's very, very difficult. And devotees just do things that make me very mad, like just don't show up to do an offering or whatever. And so I find myself, criticizing in my mind, what is wrong with this person? Why do they do this? But really, the reason they didn't show up is materially. They have a material, that's on the material platform, right? They're incompetent materially or whatever. So, like for example, one individual, I assigned him to clean and stuff, and he just never showed up and never did it at all. And I became very upset because it's like, but I could see that it's just beyond that individual's capacity to be that responsible, right? So to become angry at that individual because of their material incapacity, that's fault finding, right? That's a prakrita mentality. You're just looking at the gross material platform and then becoming angry at that soul because of what's going on the material platform. Their incompetence, or you could even see incompetence in following the regular principles, or whatever that fault you're looking at, it's just on the material platform. It's not really them as a soul. So if a prakrita bhakta is somebody who only sees the material, only deals with the material, they're kind of like lowbrow. Their mind is just in the material platform. Okay, does that make sense? All right. And then archayam eva haraye pujam ya shradayate. Oh, by the way, bhakteshu chanyeshu. So it's not just the devotees they do this to, it's everybody, right? The materialistic devotee is the one, he's absorbed in politics, he's absorbed in racial stuff, or, nationalistic, or anything in the material world, on the material platform dealing with the body. Kanishta is going to be interested in that. A Kanishta is going to be absorbed on the material platform and in the material world. Does that make sense? So Chanyeshu, you're not going to be respectful towards the devotees or people in general because you're on the gross material platform. As long as you're on the material platform, you can't really be respectful because you're going to be seeing faults. Kali Yuga especially is an ocean of faults, right? So as long as people are in the materialistic mode, there can never be peace and happiness in the world because it can only happen when you look past the material platform. That's the only place you can find peace and satisfaction with others. You have to drop your materialistic identification and you have to stop identifying others materially as well. Okay? So the Kanishta is not going to do that. He's going to be fully engrossed in bodily consciousness. And then Archayam Eva Haraye Pujam Yashadhayate. So they only have faith in the puja that goes on in the temple, right? That's basically it. Deity worship is everything, and that's all that matters. And you could see this practically, say, like in the temple room. And I don't mean to like introduce fault finding here, but just speaking hypothetically, you'll see that an individual may walk into the temple room, like say during a Bhagavatam class or Bhagavad Gita class, and there's a devotee speaking, and there's a whole bunch of devotees listening, right? And there's an exchange of knowledge going on. But a Kanishta will just walk right through the middle of the class, even like stand right in front of the speaker, and like they're not even there, right? Start like praying to the deities, oh Krishna, but like no recognition that anybody's even sitting there. Like I mentioned before, the person on the Vyasa-san might as well just be a guy on a park bench or something, or at a bus stop. There's no recognition of who the devotees are, what their position is, etc. It's just only Krishna, only the deities. So when you see devotees have that mentality, that's a Kanishta mentality. It could be an individual just visiting the temple, like I mentioned, or it could even be people that live at the temple, right? Like you only care about worshiping Krishna, and you don't see the devotees, don't care about the devotees, you hate the devotees, you're mean to the devotees, right? I worship the deity, but I'm mean to the devotees. That's a Kanishta. Or you could have, for example, I just lost it. I had an example in my mind, it's gone. But you can see that certain individuals will have all respect for the deities, but will have no respect for the devotees, essentially, and won't really see the devotees. Oh, that's what it was. Like I've seen before, I remember one time in the deity kitchen, there was a devotee had done some service. This is like a newer devotee, had done some service, and I said, "Oh, thank you. It's very appreciated, very nice of you." And they told me, "I didn't do it for you. I did it for Krishna." Right? You don't thank me, you don't take credit, you don't get any of my service, it's only for Krishna, right? But that's not actually how Krishna's service works, right? You don't just serve Krishna, it's Krishna and all the devotees, right? Like you don't just interact, but you and Krishna alone. It's always Krishna and his devotees. And so service to Krishna means that you're also, on a personal level, having an exchange or relationship with devotees. Does that make sense? So it's like whenever you're serving Krishna, you're also supposed to have relationships with devotees because you're all serving together. And so part of serving Krishna means that you also interact in an affectionate and kind way with devotees. Not that, all the devotees need to disappear, just me and Krishna. I hate everyone else. Right? That's a Kanishta mentality. So Prabhupada says here, one therefore has to raise himself from the position of a Kanishta Adhikari to the platform of Madhyama Adhikari. So if you're a Kanishta, then you should focus on being a Madhyama, right? If you're a Madhyama, you should focus on being an Uttama, like you focus on the next level above. So the Madhyama Adhikari is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.246. So this is the previous verse. Ishvare tad adhineshu balisheshu dvishatsucha prema maitri kripopeksha yakaroti samadhyamaha. The Madhyama Adhikari is a devotee who worships the Supreme Vishnu Godhead as the highest object of love, makes friends with the Lord's devotees, is merciful to the ignorant, and avoids those who are envious by nature. Okay, so now the Madhyama Adhikari, he has these relationships. He focuses on having proper relationships according to people's natures. Okay, so for the Lord, he worships him, adhineshu. And then among the friends, he basically, among the devotees, he becomes friends. All right, so he's friendly to all the devotees. That's the sign of a Madhyama Adhikari. If you see somebody who's not friendly to devotees, doesn't care about devotees, is cruel to devotees, is mean to devotees, that's not a Madhyama Adhikari. All right? And if he's, basically he worships Krishna, he's friendly with the devotees, he's merciful to the ignorant, right? Those who are essentially like, you could say non-devotees, but people that are lost, anyone who's less in a less of a position of knowledge than he is or she is, right? You're trying to, in other words, when people are in a position of, like just say for the example I just gave myself, like becoming angry at someone in the deity kitchen or whatever, that shows a kanishta, right? Because say somebody is weak in their service, or they're not steady, or they're not stable or trustworthy, then that's somebody who's in a lesser position. It's an exhibition of ignorance. And so someone should be merciful to them, right? You should see them as an object of compassion rather than anger. Does that make sense? So anywhere, a madhyama where he sees weakness, anywhere a madhyama sees ignorance or lack of Krishna consciousness, then he's merciful to those people. He feels genuinely that I want to help them. That's the emotion that's aroused when the madhyama sees weakness or ignorance. Okay? So do you feel merciful to people that are, as a kanishta, generally we don't. We feel like, we criticize them, right? Then you have to the to the envious, those who are actually antagonistic to Krishna, who hate devotees, etc., then he stays away from them. Okay, that's a madhyama. Any questions about that? Okay, Prabhupada says this is the way to cultivate devotional service properly. Therefore, in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami has advised us how to treat various devotees. We can see from practical experience that there are different types of Vaishnavas. Now, here Prabhupada's talking about Sahajiyas. The Prakrita Sahajiyas generally chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra if they are attached to women, money, and intoxication. Although such persons may chant the holy name of the Lord, they are not yet properly purified. Such people should be respected with one's mind, but their association should be avoided. Those who are innocent but simply carried away by bad association should be shown favor if they are eager to receive proper instruction from pure devotees. But those neophyte devotees who are actually initiated by the bona fide spiritual master and are seriously engaged in carrying out the orders of the spiritual master should be offered respectful obeisances. Okay, so that's the madhyama. All right, so here Prabhupada's giving us two different types of kanishtas. One, and they're both prakrita sahajiyas. So he's saying that sahajiyas are kanishtas. So sahajiya means someone who takes things cheaply. Sahaj means like the cheap path. You don't take it seriously, right? You reduce the qualifications needed to actually practice true spiritual life. So, and in India, there are certain groups which are called sahajiyas. And prakrita means materialistic, or, they're on the bodily platform. So there's different groups in India, Baul, Aul, all these different, what are called apasampradaya groups, which generally we call them sahajiyas, many of them. In fact, one of them in particular is called sahajiya. And so they will not follow the regular principles. They take everything to be very emotional and sentimental, right? Like they're there in India. In Bengal, you can find videos of them I've seen, like rolling around on the ground during a bhajan and pretending that they're in ecstasy, right? Oh, and then afterwards, they're all sitting outside smoking beedis, Oh yeah, smoke some ganja, but when the kirtan starts, all of a sudden they're, the bhava, tear open their kurta and start rolling on the ground, the bhava, the ecstasy is so great. So that's taking it all very cheaply. In fact, they are responsible for destroying the name of Vaishnavism before Bhaktivinoda Thakur rescued it, right? Previous to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if you were a Vaishnava, you were considered low class and like some kind of scumbag, basically. In India, if you were, even a Gaudiya Vaishnava, you were considered like a scumbag because they had ruined the name so badly. Yeah? And they're having illicit sex and saying that it's the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, we're meditating on them, right? And they're smoking all sorts of intoxicants and doing all sorts of stuff in the name of Vaishnavism. So... so what would be we don't see those people here in Los Angeles, but what would be an equivalent in our experience?
Christians.
No, we're talking about Vaishnavas here.
Crazy devotees.
Crazy devotees, Hare Krishna. So you will find devotees who also have this philosophy, right? They don't necessarily roll on the ground in the temple room or whatever, but they will, do kirtan and then go smoke weed or something, right? We have a big kirtan, and then afterwards, we leave the temple room and we all go out to someone's place and, bring out a bong, do some bong rips or something in the alleyway next to the temple, It's Shiva Puja, right? There's all sorts of individuals. You don't see it too much now, but historically, there's always like a group of individuals that do that. And, and they have illicit sex and they don't follow any principles. And they believe that they're practicing Krishna consciousness. Now, there's two, within that group, you can divide it into two, right? There's one group which is, they're kind of innocent and they're just dragged away by bad association. Then you have individuals who actually adopted it philosophically as the truth. Does that make sense? So, I could think of like one or two individuals here in Los Angeles who actually take it as their philosophy, right? Like smoking weed and doing all these things. It's actually, it's perfectly fine, right? Like they actually insert the principle, breaking the regs into their philosophy. Yeah, Krishna consciousness, I interpret it to mean just don't eat meat. You know what I mean? And everything else is perfectly fine. Right? There's some Babaji in Vrindavan that smokes weed, whatever, right? There's all sorts of justifications. So that's an actual sahajya. And then you have people that are just kind of poisoned by their association, right? Individuals who, they also smoke weed and all this, but it's just because kind of they're just got up in the wrong group of friends, and if they understood that you're not supposed to do that, and it was made clear to them, then they would probably stop. Does that make sense? So those individuals, then you should try to help them and be merciful. Don't just ignore them or stay away from them. Try to help them, right? Like I remember one time, we were in the parking lot after the morning program. All the devotees, they're getting some halava from Rabindranath, and this big van pulls up, and the doors open, and all these kind of like hippie devotees fall out, and the weed, the smell of weed, and the cloud of smoke was just like billowing out of this thing, and they all smelled like weed, and they're playing like Bob Marley and stuff when they drove up, and they all had like shaved heads and sikas and neck beads and dhotis and kurtas, And so, but their whole philosophy is like, different, right? Let's just say they have a different philosophy. So that would be considered sahajya, okay? So that's something to consider, So you want to stay away from individuals like that, if they're not innocent. So in this Krishna consciousness movement, a chance is given to everyone without discrimination of caste, creed, or color. Everyone is invited to join this movement, sit with us, take prasadam, and hear about Krishna. When we see that someone is actually interested in Krishna consciousness and wants to be initiated, we accept him as a disciple for the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. When a neophyte devotee is actually initiated and engaged in devotional service by the orders of the spiritual master, he should be immediately accepted as a bona fide Vaishnava, and obeisances should be offered unto him. All right, so this means like you have the individual, they become initiated to chant the holy name. Now, when Prabhupada says here, when the neophyte devotee is actually initiated and engaged in devotional service, so I take this personally to mean that he's become a madhyamadikari, right? Actual initiation means first and second initiation, and such an individual you should offer obeisances to. So this is a reference to, I think, the next verse, or maybe it's verse 7. No, I'm sorry, I'm confused. It's a reference to this particular verse. Okay? So, meaning that in this particular verse, it's mentioning that for the neophyte, you should offer mental obeisances. Right? For the madhyamadikari, you offer physical obeisances. And then to the uttamadikari, you render service. And, you try to take them as a spiritual master, basically. As a shiksha or diksha guru. Okay? So, what does that mean? Why would you only offer mental obeisances to the Kanishta?
Because he might become since he's a Kanishta, he might become puffed up.
Sure. Yeah. That's one reason. Prabhupada never goes into it here, but that's, you could, I've seen that. Like I taught the Bhakta program for many, many years. And it's like with these new bhaktas, I learned the hard way. For some time, I went to a stage where I was trying to teach them to be humble by my own example. So I would be super humble to them and offer obeisances and treat them with great reverence, and I was trying to maybe they would understand that that's proper Vaishnava behavior. Didn't work. They just took it they can lord it over me, or you know what I mean? They don't know how to reciprocate with that level of respect, right? They take it as, not necessarily that they're puffed up, but they take it as they're just not mature enough to digest it and understand how they should reciprocate. And they actually make offenses and stuff. So, that doesn't work with a Kanishta. You have to But you should respect in your mind, meaning don't criticize them. In your mind, you should have that Vaishnava mentality of humility and offering obeisances to them. But externally, you don't do it. Don't show them that, because otherwise they don't know how to reciprocate with it, right? Whereas the Madhyama, they're mature enough. They can actually handle being respected as a Vaishnava in the full sense of the term, like offering full obeisances on the ground in front of them or something. They're not going to take it the wrong way, Okay? Whereas the Uttamadhikari, then you render service and stuff. So as Prabhupada's saying here, you accept such an individual who's initiated and engaged in devotional service as a bona fide Vaishnava, and obeisances should be offered unto him. Okay? So out of many such Vaishnavas, one may be found to be very seriously engaged in the service of the Lord and strictly following all the regular principles, chanting the prescribed number of rounds on japa beads, and always thinking how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Such a Vaishnava should be accepted as an Uttama Adhikari, a highly advanced devotee, and his association should always be sought. All right? So these are the devotees that you want to hang out with, that you want to associate with, are people that are constantly engaged in service, or they're constantly thinking about how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. These are individuals that are 24 hours a day engaged. Just thinking offhand, I can think of a lot of devotees in this community, like Amala Bhakta Swami, there's different devotees that are just 24 hours a day absorbed in Krishna. Right? Like His Holiness Amala Bhakta Swami, I personally feel like he's 24 hours a day absorbed in Krishna. He's been like that for as long as I've known him, right? Just constantly doing service, or he's, working on his writing, but he's just constantly remembering Krishna. So that's an individual that you want to associate with, and you want to interact with them. Not like, hey dude, what's going on, Swamiji? And come up and put your arm around him or something. You associate by doing service. You associate in a humble way. Okay? So that's proper Vaishnava association. If you find yourself doing service to that individual and interacting on that basis, like for example, when I was brahmachari, I served Amala Bhakta Swami for about 5 years, like doing all of his laundry and doing his, I think it was 5 years, but I was doing a lot of personal service for him. And then afterwards, then we would sit together, occasionally, and he'd ask me if I had any questions and reveal my mind in confidence, and he would give me advice and stuff. So that's a very good association, right? That's the proper way to interact with him, and then to also get his guidance and stuff like that. So that's very healthy for your spiritual advancement. Does that make sense? And same thing, like say with your Guru Maharaj or something. He's, obviously he's an Uttama Adhikari, right? His Holiness Devamrita Swami is constantly absorbed. A great example of being all these qualities Prabhupada just mentioned here. So then, such an individual, you want to serve them. Right? That's how you associate with them, and then you interact through that service. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. So the process by which a devotee becomes attached to Krishna is described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya 4.192. Diksha kale bhakta kare atma samarpana, se kale Krishna tare kare atma sam. At the time of initiation, when a devotee is fully surrenders to the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as he himself. Diksha, or spiritual initiation, is explained in the Bhakti Sandarbha 868 by Srila Jiva Goswami. Divyam jnanam yato dadyat kurdyat papasya sangshayam tasmad diksheti sa prokta desi kais tattvako vadayi. By Diksha, one gradually becomes disinterested in material enjoyment and gradually becomes interested in spiritual life. Okay? So here Prabhupada is making the point about the power of initiation and the transformative power. It's like turning bell metal into gold, and Jiva Goswami mentions. You're actually transforming someone through the power of initiation and, guidance and service, etc., into a pure Vaishnava. So we have seen many practical examples of this, especially in Europe and America. Many students who come to us from our rich, respectable families quickly lose all interest in material enjoyment and become very eager to enter into spiritual life. Although they come from very wealthy families, many of them accept living conditions that are not very comfortable. Indeed, for Krishna's sake, they are prepared to accept any living condition as long as they can live in the temple and associate with the Vaishnavas. When one becomes so disinterested in material enjoyment, he becomes fit for initiation by the spiritual master. All right? So Prabhupada's mentioning one of the qualifications of a disciple, divyam jnanam yato dadyat, who's kuryat papasya sankshayam, is becoming disinterested, in material life. When you're disinterested to a certain degree, then you're qualified for initiation. And then you become further disinterested, right? So that's a bona fide disciple, as someone that's disinterested in material enjoyment and just wants to render service to Krishna. That's the qualification. Any questions about that? Pretty high qualification, right? And we see examples, of people like His Holiness Giriraj Swami, who came from very wealthy background, or at least socially prestigious. His father was like a judge. If you ever been to his house, it's a very beautiful home and everything, right? It's very, very wealthy background. And yet he chose to live in a swamp in Mumbai, right, where rats were actually crawling on him when he was sleeping. And the devotees would wake up at night and they would be bleeding from razor-sharp slashes in their body by rats. And that's pretty extreme, right? And that was in order to establish the Juhu temple. They took on that austerity to build the temple there and everything. But in the beginning, there was nothing there. It's just a swamp. I mean, I've never been to Juhu, but I've been to near Juhu, and it's a swamp, it's all mosquitoes all over the place, right? Like malaria, like they go with smoke, like they have like these little, almost like fire extinguisher things they walk around with, and they spray smoke everywhere, like in all the buildings and stuff as it gets evening time, because there's so many mosquitoes, and it's a really disturbing place to live there. I'm sure it's nice now, but at the time you have, His Holiness Giriraj Swami was choosing to live like that, even though he comes from a very wealthy background. And not only that, but his own father was offering Prabhupada millions of dollars, or at least $1 million or more, in order to get Giriraj Swami, send him back, send him home, right? Just get rid of him and I'll give you $1 million. Can you imagine? So, and Prabhupada said, no, that's not going to happen, right? So, this is His Holiness Giriraj Swami obviously is an example of a very exalted disciple, right? Someone who's fully ready for initiation. So, for the advancement of spiritual life, Srimad Bhagavatam 6.1.13 prescribes, Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena chadamena cha. When a person is serious about accepting diksha, he must be prepared to practice austerity, celibacy, control of the mind and body. If one is so prepared and is desirous of receiving spiritual enlightenment, divyam jnanam, he is fit for being initiated. All right? So you have to be willing to practice austerity, celibacy, control of the mind and body. Basically, text 1. Yeah, vacho vegam, manasakroda vegam. That's the qualities of a disciple, bona fide disciple, and guru too. Divyam jnanam is technically called tadvigyana, or knowledge about the Supreme. Tadvignartam sa gurumeva bhigachet. When one is interested in this transcendental subject matter, the absolute truth, he should be initiated. Such a person should approach a spiritual master in order to take diksha. Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.21 also prescribes tasmad gurum prapadyeta jigasushe uttamam. When one is actually interested in the transcendental science, the absolute truth, he should approach a spiritual master. All right? So tadvignartam, so for the purpose of attaining vigyan, right, which is spiritual knowledge, sa gurum, that individual, sa gurum eva bhigachet, one must actually approach a guru. Eva means must. Abhigachcha. Abhi means like you're moving towards something. Gachcha means like walking, right? And then, so anyway, you have to approach the guru. Okay? And same thing being said in the Bhagavatam. Tasmad gurum prabhadyeta. So you should surrender to a guru, jigasu she uttamam, and you should inquire about what is the absolute truth, or the highest truth, yeah? So the Shastra says, to understand the absolute truth, you have to approach a guru. Okay? So this process of approaching the guru, here Prabhupada's outlining initiation, basically. You have to be qualified, and the guru has to be qualified, yeah? Here you have the sincere devotee, the sincere kanishta, and then you have the properly situated uttama. And they have to be, they have to have these various qualifications. And then when they meet, and then the guru initiates the disciple and instructs the disciple, then there is proper revelation of spiritual knowledge. Okay? So what are the qualifications of the disciple? Well, he has to be sense-controlled. He has to be willing to, he's not interested in material enjoyment, and he has to be inquisitive about what the absolute truth is. All right? You have an individual who wants to know about Krishna and is not so interested in material advancement and is basically willing to practice all sorts of austerities and things. So one should not accept a spiritual master without following his instructions. Dun, dun, dun. So don't get initiated if you're not willing to submit yourself to your guru's authority. All right? It's very important. A lot of disciples will just run. You know, like, okay, you take an initiation, and now there's something that, you want to do or whatever, and you don't think your guru is going to give you permission. Just don't ask the guru. Just take off, right? Just escape. Just avoid. All right? That's the typical, avoid the guru. But that's not proper. You have to actually allow the guru to regulate your life, your spiritual life. That's the whole purpose. Right? You're actually coming under the authority of Krishna. Okay? Nor should one accept a spiritual master just to make a fashionable show of spiritual life. So this was very big in the 60s when Prabhupada was writing all this, that people would surrender to a guru. Everyone had a guru. First the Beatles had a guru, Maharishi, Yogi, and all that. And everyone wanted a guru. Every hippie had a guru, right? And it wasn't like a real guru. It's just like, you wear a t-shirt or something. Yeah? It's a fashion statement. So one must be jigyasu, very much inquisitive to learn from the bona fide spiritual master. The inquiries one makes should strictly pertain to transcendental science, jigyasu shreya uttamam. The word uttaman refers to that which is above material knowledge. Tama means the darkness of this material world, and ut means transcendental. Generally, people are very interested in inquiring about mundane subject matters, but one has lost such interest and is simply interested in transcendental subject matters. He's quite fit for being initiated. Right? So, hey, Gurudev, yes, disciple, who do you think's going to win the, NCAA basketball tournament or whatever? Right? Who do you have for the Super Bowl, Gurudev? So none of that's really proper. Gurudev, what do you think of Donald Trump? Blah, blah, blah. That's all bogus. You shouldn't talk to the guru like that. Okay? Nor should other people, really. But that's the tendency, is people want to engage gurus in all sorts of mundane stuff. All right? That's not proper for a disciple. It should just be about spiritual life. Your relationship with the guru is just about spiritual life and spiritual advancement. You don't interact with the guru on any mundane platform, or try to. So when one is actually initiated by the bona fide spiritual master, when he seriously engages in the service of the Lord, he should be accepted as a madhyama adhikari. So here Prabhupada says there's two things: initiation, that means first and second, and then seriously engaged. If you're not very seriously engaged, then that's not madhyama adhikari. You could even be initiated, you could even be second initiated, but you're not seriously engaged. You're just kind of like, whatever, out in the world doing your own thing. That's not really madhyama adhikari. You have to be contributing seriously to the Krishna consciousness movement in some way. You have to be connected. Okay? Like even if you're a second initiated devotee and you don't live in a temple, you don't live by any devotees, then still you should be trying to seriously contribute in whatever way you can. Engaged in Krishna consciousness, in the society, in Rupa Goswami's Sankirtan mission, etc. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's just an important warning, because if, in other words, you have to look at your level of participation as there. It's a signifier of how advanced you are. How much you're trying to assist the guru in his mission. If you're not, then that's not a very good sign. And you can move front, forward, and backward. You can become an Uttama and drop all the way down to a Kanishna. How would that happen? Yes, offending devotees, offending the guru, offending Krishna, right? You can drop yourself, you can get laid out, like with a knockout punch. Yeah, like making offenses to devotees, that's like a knockout punch on the jaw for your spiritual life, right? And then you have, you could be a Madhyama and move down to a Kanishta, It's flexible. It depends on what you do and how you do it, right? So the chanting of the holy names of Krishna is so sublime that if one chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra offenselessly, carefully avoiding the 10 offenses, he can be gradually elevated to the point of understanding that there's no difference between the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself. So that's Shuddhanam. That's the highest level of chanting. When you chant the holy name and you directly experience Krishna. Does that make sense? When Prabhupada here says he understands the holy name is non-different from the Lord, it doesn't just mean, philosophically he gets that. Oh yeah, I heard that before. I'm an Uttama adhikari, right? It means that you practically realize it. You directly experience Krishna when you chant. That's an Uttamadhikari. Of course, chanting can even produce that within a Kanishta, right? Occasionally a Kanishta will have a blissful experience chanting. But for the Uttamadhikari, it's constant, right? So one who has reached such an understanding should be very much respected by neophyte devotees. So these are the individuals that you accept as guru, etc. One should know for certain that without chanting the holy name of the Lord offenselessly, one cannot be a proper candidate for advancement in Krishna consciousness. So unless you're chanting attentively, right? Unless you're chanting Namabhas at least, you're not going to make spiritual advancement. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 22:69, it is said, Yahara komala shraddha se kanishtajan, krame krame tengho bhakta haibe uttama. One whose faith is soft and pliable is called a neophyte, but by gradually following the process, he will rise to the platform of a first-class devotee. Everyone begins his devotional life from a neophyte stage, but if one properly finishes chanting the prescribed number of rounds of Harinam, he is elevated step by step to the highest platform, Uttama Adhikari. Okay? So in the beginning, this is the second verse describing the Kanishta, right, from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he has Komala Shraddha. Komala means very soft, like silly putty, right? It's like clay. So the Kanishta, you just go, and his faith gets dented, right? It's very weak faith. It's malleable. Like, for example, if you have say you're talking to a Christian, because they love to debate and they love to fight and tell you that you're going to hell and all this stuff. These evangelicals, like on Venice Beach or something like that. So if you run into a Christian and they're telling you, like I remember when I was a new Bhakta, I was trying to distribute books at LAX, and I ran into a Christian and this lady, and I showed her the Science of Self-Realization, and it had a picture of Vishnu on the front, right, with all like in an atom or something, and so. Like what I somehow I must have picked up on that she was a Christian or something. So she asked me, "Oh, who's that?" And I told her, "That's the Holy Ghost," right? And I was kind of speculating, but the Super Soul is the Holy Ghost. But later on, I read in Prabhupada's books. Actually, he says that. So I said it's the Holy Ghost, and then she said, "No, it's not." And then she started telling me that's the devil and this and that. And because I was a new Bhakta and a very Komala Shraddha, I was actually caused me all these doubts and stuff. I was like, "Oh my God. What if she's right?" Like on the way home from the airport, I was kind of thinking, maybe I am worshiping the devil, or what if Vishnu's the devil? I'm being bewildered, and you know what I mean. So that's Komala Shraddha. And then many years later, I remember there was a Christian who came up to me at the promenade at Harinam, and he was trying same thing, this is the devil, and then I just kind of I just started preaching to him and encouraging him, you should be a good Christian, and I was just being very nice, and I could see his faith was getting all disturbed, right? I could see he started almost shaking and stuff, he was really shaking because he was terrified, and I had to back off. I wasn't trying to aggressively preach. I was just being very gentle and nice to him, very confident in my faith, and he was shaken, and so I had to stop because I felt oh my God, I'm gonna break his faith in Jesus or something, which I don't want to do, right? But it was he was so his own fanatical interpretation of Christianity was just defeated by just me having faith in Krishna. My faith is stronger than his, so his faith became malleable under mine. Right? Whereas in the first example at LAX, her faith was stronger than mine, and her, very narrow-minded belief system, and therefore mine became imprinted by hers. Does that make sense? So whoever has the stronger faith, you imprint that other individual's faith, you bend it and shape it, right? And so that's basically what it means. It's almost your faith is weaker than others' faith. But then as you become stronger, your faith is very strong and solid. And even if other people have good arguments that are, whatever, even if people may logically defeat you or something, it still doesn't affect your faith, right? If you have very strong faith, then you meet an individual who also has strong faith, and they present all these arguments, and you're left stammering, and you can't give any good argument. It's still, even then, you don't walk away feeling, oh my God, I was defeated. You just think, oh, that individual very good at arguing, doesn't mean Krishna's not God, just means they're better at arguing than me, right? That's a sign of strong faith. That's a madhyamadikari. Okay? All right. O ye of little faith, yeah? So the Krishna, that's Jesus, I think, said that. So the Krishna consciousness movement prescribes 16 rounds daily because people in the Western countries cannot concentrate for long periods while chanting on beads. Amen. So therefore the minimum number of rounds is prescribed. However, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that unless one chants at least 64 rounds of japa, 100,000 names, he's considered fallen, patita. According to this calculation, practically every one of us is fallen, but because we are trying to serve the Supreme Lord with all seriousness and without duplicity, we can expect the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's famous as Patita Pavana, the deliverer of the fallen. So 64 rounds, that was the standard, probably take about 8 hours, right? That was the standard in the Gaudiya Math, unless you were preaching. Then it was dropped to 16. That's why everybody wanted to preach, right? So if you were engaged in preaching, then you didn't have to worry. You could just chant 16 rounds. So Prabhupada took the preaching standard of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and just made that the standard. But then also, the implication is you should also be engaged in the preaching mission. In some way or other, you're assisting the Sankirtan movement. Does that make sense? So we don't really try to chant 64 rounds. It wouldn't really work. We're not really qualified for that. And very few people are. So when Srila Satyaraj Khan, a great devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, asked the Lord how a Vaishnava could be recognized, the Lord replied, Prabhu kahe, yandra mukhe shune ekabara, Krishna namase puja shrestha sadakar. One who hears a person say the word Krishna even once, that person should be accepted as the best man out of the common group. That's from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 15.106. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, Ataiva Yandra Mukhe Eka Krishnanam Seta Vaishnava Kariha Tanhara Saman. One who is interested in chanting the holy names of Krishna, who by practice likes to chant Krishna's names, should be accepted as a Vaishnava and offered respects as such, at least within one's mind. All right? So, in other words, we're talking about, there's Kanishta, Madhyama, Uttama, right? We've got a kind of a picture of who's where. But then where does Kanishta begin? Like who, at the lowest point, who do you consider a devotee? Who do you consider a Kanishta? Like the most basic, lowest level Kanishta is anyone who says the name of Krishna. Right? Because that's the beginning of the whole process of devotional service. Nectar Devotion describes basically like when you chant the holy name of Krishna even once, all of a sudden you've begun the whole process of devotional service. And then, the next time you come across Krishna's service or Krishna's name, you'll be attracted. And then because you're attracted, you perform service. And then the more service you perform, the more attracted you become. Right? And so there's this cycle of attraction and performance of devotional service. So the more service you do, the more attracted you are. More attracted you are, the more service you do. And this is kind of how devotional service matures into prema. So just the beginning is just doing some service, or chanting Hare Krishna, or even just hearing the holy name. And so, like, for example, I think just the other day I went to the store. It was probably Sprouts or something. And, I walked in because I wear dhoti. Then there was one young man saw me and he said, Hare Krishna, And that's an example of a Kanishta, right? He's a devotee. He may not be following the regs or chanting 16 rounds or whatever, but he started the process. And therefore he's got an attraction to Krishna. And there's, as it said here, Lord Chaitanya said, he's the best man at Sprouts, right? He's the most spiritually advanced person at Sprouts. And you could see, because immediately upon seeing, well, I wouldn't consider myself a devotee, but immediately upon seeing a devotee, what looks like a devotee, he immediately remembers Krishna. That's pretty powerful. That's a very advanced soul, actually. Okay? Here Prabhupada gives an example. One of our friends, a famous English musician, George Harrison, right, has become attracted to the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, and even in his records he has several times mentioned the holy name of Krishna. Yeah? What is it? My Sweet Lord and all that. But also he even produced and participated in the Radha Krishna Temple album. So at his home he offers respects to pictures of Krishna and also to the preachers of Krishna consciousness. In all regards, he has a very high estimation of Krishna's name and Krishna's activities. Therefore, we offer respects to him without reservation, for we're actually seeing that this gentleman is advancing gradually in Krishna consciousness. Such a person should always be shown respect. The conclusion is that anyone who is trying to advance in Krishna consciousness by regularly chanting the holy name should always be respected by Vaishnavas. On the other hand, we have witnessed that some of our contemporaries, meaning as godbrothers, who are supposed to be great preachers, have gradually fallen into material conception of life because they have failed to chant the holy name of the Lord. So you could see, very advanced devotees, or devotees who are madhyamadikaris at least, they drop down to kanishtas because they don't properly respect others and they don't chant the holy name. Okay? So while giving instruction to Sanatana Goswami, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu divided devotional service into three categories: Shastra Yukti, Nahi Janhi Dridha, Shradhavan, Madhyamadikari Se Mahabhagyavan. A person whose conclusive knowledge of the Shastras is not very strong, but who has developed firm faith in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and who is also undeterred in the execution of his prescribed devotional service, should be considered a Madhyamadikari. Such a person is very fortunate. All right, so here we see the Madhyamadikari. These qualities are mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the second verse describing the Madhyamadikari. So Shastra Yukti Nahi, so he's not very advanced in Shastra. You look at like Prabhupada's level of Shastra, like that level of knowledge, that's a very high level of knowledge, right? Prabhupada's quoting shlokas from everywhere. So that's like a Uttamadikari level of Shastric knowledge. So somebody who's not, nearly on that level. But Dridha has a very Dridha Shradhavan. He's full of faith and very firm faith, very solid faith, like we talked about. So that's a Madhyama, okay? And as Prabhupada says here, how do you see that Dridha, that Shradhavan? Well, he's undeterred in his chanting, and he's also undeterred in his execution of devotional service. So like he does his service no matter what, and he chants his japa no matter what. That's example of Dridha faith, very fixed faith. Make sense? Do you see that in yourself? Right? Yeah. So, where are we? Well, we could be kanishtas, but you're also got these qualities of the Madhyama that are there. Like if you see an individual who they're always chanting their rounds, that's a Madhyamadikari qualification, right? It's one of the symptoms that you're at least moving towards being a Madhyamadikari, and you always do your service no matter what. Like I don't want to get up, I don't want to do this service, I don't want to do this, but I do it anyway. That's Dridha, that's Shradhavan, that's having firm faith and firm solid practice. Make sense? Okay. So Madhyamadikari is a Shradhavan, a staunchly faithful person. He's actually candidate for further advancement in devotional service. Therefore, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 2264, it is said, Shradhavan jan hai bhakti adhikar uttama madhyama kanishna shraddha anusar. One becomes qualified as a devotee in the elementary platform, the intermediate platform, and the highest platform of devotional service according to the development of his Shraddha faith. Again, okay, so this is probably one of the most important points in this whole purport. All right, so it's remember we talked about attraction and advancement and how it gradually advances towards pure devotional service. So that's Shraddha. Okay, so to the level of Shraddha or faith that you have is the level of advancement you have. Right? Faith we tend to think of the word faith in our Christian society means kind of like blind faith, I believe, that's faith. But when Shraddha is a little different from that. Shraddha is kind of like the development of attraction to Krishna and the performance of devotional service to Krishna, right? Along with a very strong sense of, realization of Krishna, and a strong, there's a sense of faith in religious faith or scriptural faith that you believe, and it's not just belief though. It's not blind faith. It's kind of like your level of acceptance and belief in the scripture as it is realized and understood through practical application. Does that make sense? Like you're growing solid in your understanding of the Shastra, your realization of the Shastra, and your faith in the Shastra. But that's based upon your own experience and your own maturity. The more that you apply the Shastra, the stronger you become in understanding it. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is a very important verse right here. It says, again in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 2262, it is said, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe Sudridha Nishtaya Krishna Bhakti Kaila Sarva Karma Kritahaya. So this is super important. So Shraddha, this is the definition of Shraddha given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Shraddha is confident, firm faith that by rendering transcendental loving service to Krishna, one automatically performs all subsidiary activities. Such faith is favorable to the discharge of devotional service. So this is the definition of Shraddha. Krishna Bhakti Kaila Sarva Karma Kritahaya. If I just do Krishna Bhakti, then everything else will come, right? If I just serve Krishna, that's all I need, you know? Like we have so many desires and concerns and worries and different stuff in material life. We're always fearful about our future and about what's going to happen to me. But if we have the faith that if I just serve Krishna, everything will come. Everything will be taken care of. Within service to Krishna, all of my needs are fulfilled. Does that make sense? It's like and it is, like when the Christians do this exercise where you stand on a ladder and you fall back into the hands of your friends. Hopefully they catch you, right? It's exhibiting, or rather making an example of faith, that you accept that Krishna will catch you. So it's the same thing, kind of, that you believe that all of my needs, everything I could ever want or need, all of my concerns, all of the activities I need to perform, it's all fulfilled by Krishna. All I have to do is surrender to Krishna, everything else is taken care of. And Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita, which Prabhupada mentioned coming up right now. So Shraddha, faith in Krishna, is the beginning of Krishna consciousness. Faith means strong faith, means it's dridha. The words of the Bhagavad Gita are authoritative instructions for faithful men, and whatever Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita is to be accepted as it is without interpretation. This is the way Arjuna accepted Bhagavad Gita. After hearing the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna told Krishna, etad ratam manye yanmam vadasi keshava. O Krishna, I totally accept as truth all that you have told me. Bhagavad Gita 10:14. This is the correct way of understanding Bhagavad Gita, and this is called Shraddha. So you accept what Krishna tells you. It is not that one accepts a portion of the Bhagavad Gita and according to his own whimsical interpretation and then rejects another portion. That is not Shraddha. Shraddha means accepting the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita in their totality. So that's what Mayavadis do. They pick certain verses out and then try to twist them to, support Mayavad or whatever. But they don't take the whole big picture, where Krishna constantly says, surrender unto me. Especially the last instruction, Sarva Dharma Paritijam Mamekam Sharanam Braja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita 18-66. When one becomes completely faithful in regard to this instructions, one's strong faith becomes the basis for advancing in spiritual life. So that Sarva Dharma Paritija, that's really the same thing, Sarva Karma Kritahaya. Just surrender unto me, I'll take care of you, I'll protect you. That's the idea. So let's just finish this off. We've got 2 minutes, but we'll try to finish the purport. So when one fully engages in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he gradually realizes his own spiritual identity. Unless one faithfully chants the Hare Krishna mantra, Krishna does not reveal himself. Seva mukhe jivada. Swami Vispadatidaha, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-2-2-3-4. We cannot realize the Supreme Personality by artificial means. We must engage faithfully in the service of the Lord. Such service begins with the tongue, Sevamukhi Jivadam, which means that we should always chant the holy names of the Lord and accept Krishna Prasadam. We should not chant or accept anything else. When this process is faithfully followed, the Supreme Lord reveals himself to the devotee. So the importance of chanting and taking prasad, right? It begins with the tongue. Controlling spiritual life really begins when you engage the tongue properly. So when a person realizes himself to be eternal servant of Krishna, he loses interest in everything but Krishna service. Okay? So that's the symptom of understanding your spiritual identity, is that you lose interest in everything but Krishna and serving Krishna. If you don't, if you're interested in all sorts of other things, it means you're identifying with the body. So always thinking of Krishna, devising means by which to spread the holy name of Krishna, he understands that his only business is in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Such a person is to be recognized in Uttama Adhikari, and his association should be immediately accepted according to the 6 processes. That's the previous verse. Dadati, Prati, Grinati, etc. Indeed, the advanced Uttamadhikari Vaishnava devotee should be accepted as a spiritual master. Everything one possesses should be offered to him, for it is enjoined that one should deliver whatever he has to the spiritual master. All right, so generally speaking, Madhyamadhikaris are the ones who are engaged in preaching. Uttamadhikaris just absorbed in bhajan and serving Krishna. But within the movement of Srila Rupa Goswami and in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, then the Uttamadhikari will also preach. All right? He's always in thinking how to spread the holy name. So the brahmachari in particular is supposed to beg alms from others and offer them to the spiritual master. However, one should not imitate the behavior of an advanced devotee or Mahabhagavat without being self-realized, for by such imitation one will eventually become degraded. So if you try to pretend to be more advanced than you are, especially try to pretend to be an Uttama Adhikari, you're going to fall down. Okay? So act on your level. So in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami advises the devotees to be intelligent enough to distinguish between the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The devotee should also know his own position and should not try to imitate a devotee situated on a higher platform. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given some practical hints to the effect that an Uttama Adhikari Vaishnava can be recognized by his ability to convert many fallen souls to Vaishnavism. One should not become a spiritual master unless he has attained the platform of a Uttama Adhikari. Okay? So another symptom, other than not criticizing others, another symptom given here is that he's able to make people into devotees. You have to be empowered by Krishna. So a neophyte Vaishnava or a Vaishnava situated on the intermediate platform, these Madhyama, can also accept disciples, but such disciples must be on the same platform, and it should be understood that they cannot advance very well towards the ultimate goal of life under his insufficient guidance. So if you're a Kanishta, you can also become a guru. If you're Madhyama, you can become a guru, but it's not really recommended because you can't lift people higher than yourself. Well, they're going to be stuck on your level. All right? So, therefore, disciples should be careful to accept an Uttamadhikari as a spiritual master. So you can choose. There's all sorts of gurus out there, and you have to find an Uttamadhikari by their symptoms. Right? Not criticizing others, and being empowered, really, to inspire other people to become devotees. Yeah?
Mean that we're connected to Srila Prabhupada? Is it that we go to the level of our spiritual master, or if we continue to strive to go to like aspiring?
Well, that's a very good question, because it's really asking what is Prabhupada talking about here, a shiksha or diksha, yeah. So that is, I can't really give I have to kind of think about that, but basically, Prabhupada's here talking about diksha, but at the same time, there's the element of shiksha. So, can you be initiated? Like, in other words, we accept Prabhupada as our Shiksha Guru, and Prabhupada's obviously an Uttamadhikari. Can you have like a Kanishta Diksha Guru, but then you're accepting Shiksha from an Uttamadhikari? Well, there's a couple things you have to think about there, and we're kind of out of time. I don't want to go into like too much detail. We could talk about this for like half an hour or whatever. But really, when it talks about a guru, it's talking about someone who's alive. Someone who's actually there. So, we accept Prabhupada as our Shiksha Guru, but also you should have Shiksha Gurus that are Uttama Adhikaris, that are there in your life, that are working with you. And it's generally those individuals that you should accept as a Diksha Guru. Right? So, say you're in a situation where you have a Kanishta Diksha Guru, you can, with that Diksha Guru's permission, you can have other gurus who are alive, who are Uttama Adhikaris, who give you spiritual guidance and stuff. And then you can advance under their guidance. Does that make sense? But generally the advice to be given is that you should find Shiksha Gurus or Uttama Adhikaris, and then among those Shiksha Gurus, the one who is the most, you might say, on all levels applicable to your life and helping you, right? Then that individual you should accept Diksha from. So yes, you should look for a Diksha Guru who is an Uttama Adhikari, yeah? But if not, then you can get, if your Diksha Guru is not an Uttamadhikari, you can, with their permission, accept association, not initiation, but association from other Shiksha Gurus and be advanced in their association. Okay? All right, thank you very much. All glories Prabhupada.